Welcome Tim Elliott back to MMAOddsBreaker. Very strong beard. He says it took him 14 days to grow that. I don't believe him. I don't know. 14 days really is that how long it took to grow that thing out?
I don't know. I don't know. I try to keep it trimmed down for grappling purposes.
Yeah, it gets in the way, right? You go to did it ever get long enough where you actually grabbed it in the middle of like you grabbed your own beard in the middle of like trying to do something underneath or trying to get a hold of somebody?
I have grabbed it myself, had other people grab it, all that. No good.
Yeah, it's that it actually gives me better head position when mine's really long because then I tend to move my head out of the way because I'm scared of grabbing my own chin. And then once you're locked in, you can't let go. You're like, well, now I've stuck. I got his head caught, but I got my head caught too.
Having that extra friction when you're rolling with James Krause isn't good. He'll catch you in that guillotine.
How's it been training with James as of late? Like he seems to have gotten so much better every time we see him out live. Has he been making everybody else better as well in the group?
He has, man. I say it all the time, and I know he doesn't like it when I say it, but he's a better coach, in my opinion, than he is a fighter, and I think he's a great fighter. I was looking for a gym when I ended up in Kansas City, so I was traveling around. I went to Dominic Cruz's gym. I've been to American Top Team in Coconut Creek, Florida, but he's cutting edge. He's taught me something, and then 2 weeks later, he's teaching me a different version of that because he found something that works better. So it's never, this is the way we do something. It's always getting better. It's always changing. And man, everybody gets better because of him. He's a genius when it comes to MMA.
I've told him before that I think he's a better coach than he is a fighter. And that's taking nothing away from his fighting game. So obviously he has a future. Like when he retires from fighting and decides to move on and do other stuff, he can definitely be a full-time coach, but he's not in an area where a lot of big name guys are going to go to him. So it's kind of like, it's almost like you have to carry everything on your shoulders to get people to know about Krause as a coach. Do you feel like that sometimes where you're just like, I've got to do well to make the show, but else that Krause is actually this good as a coach?
Yeah, and I say it all the time in every interview. I know I drop his name a ton, but I really believe everything I say, but not really. James knows that the money isn't in MMA fighters. He's selling his business to kids and women, and that's what pays the bills. So he's gonna make more money with that anyway whenever fighting's all said and done. But as for now, I think he's doing something special with being a head coach of a pretty good sized gym. With at one time we had 4 guys in the UFC out of this little tiny gym. So being a head coach and fighting in the UFC, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, not bad. Well, let's talk about your fights. Enough about talking about your coach. You're going to fight Nobre coming up on Titan 36, December 18th. So, here we are just about in the middle of November. So you're just over a month away from this fight. So you're about midway through a traditional training camp. Was your training camp this time going to be 8 weeks or was it a 12-weeker?
I started training right after my last fight. I knew I was going to get this fight. Right when I got the title or the Titan belt, Pedro hit me up and said, he deserved the shot. He's 2-0 in Titan. And I didn't argue with him. I told him for sure. So I was actually going to go up and fight at 35 for this next one. But I ended up getting the fight that I wanted, which was Pedro. So I'm going to go ahead and honor that fight. But after this, I'm looking at going up to 35. I want to fight Brett Johns for the 35-pound belt if possible.
Now, why do you want to go up to 35? Is it because it's a better weight class for you, or is it just you want to challenge yourself and move up a weight class?
It's just I'm not making enough money to cut a bunch of weight at 25, and the way I'm training now and the way I look at fighting is totally different since I've had my baby. So, I don't train as hard. I'm not in the gym as much. I'm spending most of my time with the baby and then just coming in, getting a workout and then getting right back home for the kids. So everything has changed. And I think the weight cut on top of all that would just make me enjoy fighting more because it's become more of a hobby now instead of work. And I'm really having a lot more fun with the fighting. But in the same sense, it's harder to make weight when I'm not training as much.
Now, it's obviously made you enjoy fighting more and not having to cut as much weight. But will this hurt your overall? I hate to say it. Will this hurt your overall record because you're going to go up and you're not training as much, which means you could be not as prepared for fights. It means you're not going to be down at the right weight class if your body should be at 125. Like there's a lot of pros and cons to moving up a weight class. You've obviously had to weigh them out. It wasn't just like some snap decision that you did, but you've got to figure out like, I got the baby, but I also have to be able to provide for that baby.
I feel like I can compete at 35, and man, I don't have to work. I'm not making any money fighting anyway. My wife has a decent job, and I can I do the cooking and the cleaning and all the parenting. So I don't have to fight. At this point, any money I make now is just for vacation or, buying stupid shit that we don't need. Mostly I think it's just because it'll make my time while I'm fighting more fun. My record, it was shot when I started out. I started my career out with 0 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. So, having a good record and retiring and isn't in my future, but I can be done, as a guy who was exciting, and that's good enough for me. I don't have very many boring fights, and I want to, I can keep that alive, and I feel like I could be more exciting at 35.
Well, your record's not too bad at 12-6. It's not like you have a horrible record. You're not 6-12. You're 12-6. You've had some pretty tough battles. You've fought a lot of really good guys. Joe B. Obviously Ali Begatanov back in the UFC. Like, you've fought some really tough guys, and now those fights went your way. So when you were training and you were kind of in the game a little bit, and then just kind of those guys were just a little bit better on those nights. So I could see you personally. I think your best spot's 125, but you've also got to have a quality of life. You've also got to be able to wake up in the morning and go, I really want to go to practice. I really want to come home and spend time with my baby. And you can't do that if your heart's not in it, your game's not in it. Are you thinking about getting away from the sport now because you don't really need to be fighting for money? It's not like a demand you're doing as a hobby. Are you looking to retire out pretty soon?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll probably be one of those guys who fights when I'm Jens Pulver's age, but only because I like the sport and I like to compete, and I don't mind getting hit, and I love to hit people. But if the UFC called me back, I'd for sure be at 25. It's not an issue. But if you're going to make $5,000 total to cut from 154 pounds to 125 pounds, it's just it takes a lot of the fun out of it for me.
Yeah, I understand that, and cutting weight does suck, and it's actually been a big, not controversy, but it's been a big discussion as of late in MMA is about the weight cutting, and obviously they took away IVs and some other things that are going on now within the sport to try to make it a little bit safer. And there's gonna be a lot of guys like you that are like, I'm not making enough money to cut weight, so I'm going up. It's just kind of how it works. I don't have enough notoriety. There's gonna be enough television, enough eyeballs on me when I'm on TV, so I'm gonna go ahead and go up a weight class and be happier and feel better about myself. So, but you are taking this next fight is at 125. You are honoring that fight down at the weight, and you're the champ, and so you have to defend the belt. But like you just said, you're not training as hard. You're running in, going to practice, and running right back home to be with your kid. What do you think Nobre is doing? Do you think he's training just as hard as he was before?
Oh, I hope he is. I mean, I think he's a great opponent, and obviously he's very skilled. But I've seen in his one UFC stint, he's a guy that can be broken. Mentally, I'm good. That's my strongest attribute. Mentally, I'm on point. I'm 100%. I feel like when I'm on, I can beat anybody. It's my body that won't keep up with my head. So, and that it gets even worse cutting down to those lightweight classes. But no, my training has actually been getting better. I hear it from James all the time. We're padding more. I'm doing less sparring. And he's saying, this is the best you've ever looked. And it's the best I've ever felt because I'm not all ragged from, training 2-3 times a day and then strength conditioning on top of it. It was just, I plateaued a lot. My cardio was getting better, but my technique wasn't getting any better. And now I'm coming in, I'm being creative again. I got James, one-on-ones with James, which we weren't really doing that much before. It was just practice time. So, technical wise, I feel like this is the best I've ever been. Cardio wise, we'll see.
Okay. So a lot of these fights in the lighter weight classes, it comes down to cardio because everybody kind of, everyone's starting to hit better at the lower weight classes. Everyone's getting better technique. But now you got to worry about cardio because it will go in the late rounds, especially in title fights. And it's going to be a big situation for you. So I'm interested to see being more rested and being happier about going to training sometimes is better than spending the extra hours and extra days in the gym. I wish I had spent less time in the gym later in my career and spent more time recuperating and relaxing and resting and getting ready for that next practice. It would have given me a longer life. I feel like this attitude from you now is going to give you a longer life in the game. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's going to make you that much more money, unless the UFC calls you up and goes, "Hey, look, we're going to give you, we're going to triple your rate," which isn't that much fighting in Titan. Let's be honest. The triple rate in Titan doesn't, it's still not going to pay all the bills. So, but I do think you'll be able to fight like Jens Pulver, late into your career, because you'll be happy about it, and not take as much damage from cutting so much weight. Do you feel the same way, or do you feel like it's just like a means to an end right now?
Say that one more time.
Do you feel the same way? Or do you feel like it's just a means to an end right now
No, I love it. I'm having more and more fun with it every day, and who knows, when the kid gets older, I may not want to spend every single second with her, but as of right now, it's the coolest shit ever. I was scared of babies, never really held any little kids, and I already missed the tiny infant stage. But no, I'm going to fight as long as I can, and obviously I want to get back into the UFC. You mentioned the Joe B fight. That was the most fun I've ever had fighting. That was the best I ever felt fighting, and if I could get that fight back again, I would love that because Joe B's a straightforward guy. You don't have to go searching for him. He doesn't avoid the action, and those are the fights that I want, not for just my sake, but for the 25-pound division's sake. The guys who back up and point fight, and it's just boring. Nobody wants to watch it.
That's Tim Elliott getting ready to fight December 18th, Titan 36. Tim, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on the baby. I don't think we've spoke since she was born, but congratulations, and it's actually kind of cool to see you like, no, man, I'm a stay-at-home dad. Like I cook and clean, and my wife works full time, and I just run out, work out, come home. It's actually kind of neat to see a man stepping up.
I'm living the dream. I've never been happier.
Good for you. That's really good. That's awesome. Tell James we said hi, and we'll talk again soon.
Will do, man. Thank you.